Hello and welcome back to the next chapter in the weekly homework series. Today we are going to look at reggae, a musical genre with its own unique set of rhythms. If you're familiar with Bob Marley at all, then you might identify beats like this. Of course, each beat is different, hence why I will share to you some examples. The one thing that's important in reggae compared to other genres is that all rhythms fall under beats 2 and 4. In practically most, if not all forms of music, each drum groove starts on beat 1 as a way to provide both rhythmical foundation as well as to accent each groove. The last few patterns we did a couple of videos ago all had started on beat 1. In reggae this is not the case, since we start on beats 2 and 4. The reason being is that we fall under a technique called skank chords. Skank chords are just staccato notes played on a guitar or piano, which also fall on beats 2 and 4, and almost feels like a punctuation to the overall harmony, because the harmony and arrangement is extremely simple, as well as slow. You would rarely find tracks above 100 BPM. I'm excluding ska, because we already covered that, as it uses the 4 on the floor pattern. This is more rock steady. Let's get into some examples, yes. Here's beat 1, written at 75 BPM, and features a 16th note hi-hat pattern, with some velocity changes, since you're working with more space, and using not as many kicks or snares. There can be velocity changes like in the previous two videos, but I highlight it here, as this is the most important to get the groove. The rest of the drums are on 2 and 4, and simply uses the kick and the rim shot. You've also probably heard the offbeat open hi-hat that came in just towards the end of the bar. By adding an open hat, shifting slightly away from the quarter note into the offbeats, you are creating a variation from a rather simple pass. It feels unique, it's like it's highlighting it in a way. In this next example, most of it is the same, except I added a snare into the offbeat for more excitement, and I changed the way the hats are playing. It's not 16th notes anymore, instead it's mostly 8th notes, but with an additional few notes thrown in, making it more like one note, followed by 2 notes, if you were to count each part as groupings of 4. Note this beat is in 66 BPM. Also, all the beats so far have been created with swing, which is the simple act of shifting the beats slightly, not into the offbeats, but more in between, to make it more snappy. I don't know, I'll explain it more when I make my jazz drum video. This beat is a duplicate, but I removed some hats to accent the open hat. Or if you want, make the beat extremely simple, and forget majority of the hats. The last major example comes at 100 BPM, and this time doesn't have a snare or rim shot. Instead it's just the kick with 2 double closed hats for a simple groove, followed by an offbeat open hat for acceleration. It's sort of like the open hat is leading into the kick. Next up is fills. We will start with a simple fill of a hi-hat. You may remember the classic hit, "Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic" by the Police. Well, it starts with an intro just like this. It's written at 80 BPM. The reason for the tempo changes is that each beat is different and can more or less only function with its own tempo. This pattern begins with a 32-note roll at the start, followed by 3 16th note finishes. You're really rolling into the start of the pattern. It doesn't have to be open hats. You can also do this pattern on a set of timbales. Timbales hail from Cuba and are essentially small metal cylinders which create a rattling metallic sound. Very much considered a Caribbean instrument. Next fill is what I would call the snare to the crash. In a lot of reggae tracks, it's common to have a crash on the offbeat as an introductory message to begin the track. I've popped in a few snares as a build-up to the crash. Simply a double note followed by a single note. Again, it's all interchangeable. No one groove is the same, but this is a common technique. The last fill is a little bit more complicated, so I've included some real examples in alongside mine. It's essentially a timbale fill, and consists of the high timbale and the low timbale. Again, it can all be interchanged. It usually starts on beat 1 and goes through a flam kind of motion. A flam is usually the same note, but played ever so slightly behind, very much a short delay effect. I've tried to replicate it here, despite those not really being human drummers. It's essentially a small grace note before the second beat, alongside the final off-beat timbale. I don't know any reggae track that hasn't started with this beat. I can already list 10 Bob Marley tracks with this fill. Here is the same one, this time with a cheap shot at making a flam. It's more better on live drums, trust me, especially since this was programmed. So that was all the examples. I hope you learned something. Now it's time for you to have a go. Your task is to make a track using the span. Of course, all task is to make a track using the span. Of course, all examples shown form part of this beat, but it's really up to you to showcase how you form this beat, since reggae can have many possibilities. The main important thing to remember is beats always land on 2 and 4. That's what reggae is about. Good luck, let's see what you can create.